Make it live on Facebook. That's correct. There we go.
It's so much easier being on someone else's stream than doing your own.
I've taught myself a lot of things in during
Same.
COVID.
Yeah. So many of us now are Zoom experts. Not something I thought I'd put on my resume in 2019.
Yes. You know, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, so you're really good at Zoom.
Yeah. Useful skills, new skills to learn.
Well, I've been saying from the get-go that you should come out of this better than you went in.
Yeah.
Which is not the easiest thing for a lot of people, but
no. It's how we see it with Healthy Hospos. This is like an opportunity.
Yep.
You know, you've been given a break from the pressures and the stress and the unhealthy environment that can so often exist in hospitality.
Do you think that there's a little bit of an issue with everybody being out of work, that drinking has become a bit more of a cultural thing, that people are drinking more now?
I don't know if they are, because like people like bartenders are definitely drinking less.
You think so?
Simply for the fact that when you're at work, you often consume almost subconsciously. You'd like to, you know, the shots and the drinks and the staff meetings and all that kind of stuff. You rack it up, and then when you're not in that kind of environment where you're constantly touching, making, surrounded, drinking, watching people drink, binge drinking is probably still a problem.
Yeah,
I think the loneliness and isolation is a far bigger problem.
Yeah, I think binge drinking probably without that sort of pack mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Because drinking at home generally tends to be a symptom rather than a cause of a problem.
Yeah. So, but I'm a bit of a comic book nerd. A lot of people.
I can see.
People. As one of my little secret hobbies is that I collect vintage comic books and a bit of a collector. So I usually like to start off, because you've been everywhere. Like, you've traveled and lived in a number of places. And that's before we even get into what you sort of notoriously got known for, is with the Healthy Hospo initiative. Kick it off. Tell the people that are listening and watching how did you get your start?
So I grew up in a tourist area of the UK. So it's where I'm kind of come back home right now, actually. So I'm down in Cornwall, which is about as close to you as it's possible for me to get without either getting on a plane or getting wet. But where I live, you know, it's very touristy. So there's lots of beaches, golden sand, palm trees. So when you grow up down here in the summer, it's extremely busy. So it's very, you know, and hospitality jobs are just abundant. They're everywhere. So everyone kind of gets a job in some form of hospitality outlet, whether that's in a restaurant, in a bar, maybe at one of the campsites. And that's really how I started my career in hospitality. So from the age of 14, simply because there were just so many jobs in the summer. Just earn a bit of pocket money so I could spend it on expensive mountain bikes. And then so kind of did that for a number, but it's very kind of on and off. So lots of work in the summer. The winter is extremely quiet. So there's hardly any jobs. You kind of go from this high to low. And then in 2005, when I was managing a beach resort, my mum suddenly and unexpectedly passed away 4 days before Christmas. And that for me was a real gift. I always say that the kind of the final gift from my mother was the opportunity to go and travel. Because I was extremely close to my mum, a bit of a mummy's boy. So when she passed away, I always say that was the freedom to go and see the world. So within 3-4 months of her passing, I bought a one-way plane ticket to New Zealand. with the goal to go and work in a cocktail bar. I kind of fallen in love with cocktails over the summer of 2005. So the opportunity was, all right, go to New Zealand, get in a cocktail bar, and let's see where this goes. Kind of following the dream. And it was amazing. I got a job, worked my way up from the bottom of the rung in New Zealand. It was really exciting. It was the 2009 Bartender of the Year in New Zealand. It's kind of like being the world's tallest hobbit. But there was an amazing scene down there at that time. If you look at the people who were working in New Zealand during that period and where they've got to now, you've got like Jacob Ryers at Bacardi, Dickie Cullimore, the global brand ambassador, Jason Clark, who's the European ambassador for Talisker.
Yep.
Just so many great people came out of that period.
It was the height of the 42
really
World Cup and whatnot.
Oh, greatest competition ever. Greatest competition ever. I was so fortunate to represent New Zealand during that. It was a crazy time. I was in New Zealand for 4 years, and then got a call to go to India, which was super interesting. Do you remember? So it was the 2008 terrorist attacks. And, the terrorists came in and they took Mumbai hostage and set fire to the hotel. So the job was to go and work at the hotel and reopen their bars after the terror attack. So like most people that had sat there and kind of watched these attacks unfold over 3 days, what fascinated me the most was the story of hospitality from the hotel. Here's me thinking that good hospitality is serving a glass of water on a napkin to every customer that comes into the bar. And then here are this group of guys in India who are getting paid like £50 a month, whose definition of hospitality is risking their lives to save their guests.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a level of hospitality that I had never experienced or even heard of before. And I really wanted to go and meet these people and learn from them. So when the opportunity came to go and work at that hotel, it was a no-brainer.
So how long were you in India for?
So I spent 3 years in India.
Oh, wow.
So I did 1 year at the hotel, which was an incredible experience to kind of live and work at one of the world's great hotels. And then went and joined the big Diageo from there as the first brand ambassador for India.
So what brought you back to England after India?
So 2 years at Diageo in India, and then was offered the role of global brand ambassador for Bullet, but also ambassador for Sub-Saharan Africa. So
that's
it was kind of a dual role of going to travel to a continent that I've always wanted to travel around and experience more of, and then also work with what at the time was quite a rare brand to have such a big international global brand, where the founder is still such a fundamental part of the business. Most of the big global brands that Bacardi or Diageo or Pernod own, the founders are no longer anything to do with it. And if they are, then they're kind of very small, just brought into the portfolio brands. Here's a 1.5 million case a year brand where the founder still works on it every single day.
Yeah.
So that role was based in the UK. Although, like with any global ambassador role, your base, where you live is really just where you keep your stuff. You just have very expensive storage because you're hardly ever there.
So you were based in the UK, but you were traveling to Africa regularly?
Yep.
Oh wow, that's still a heck of a flight.
It is. It's a heck of a flight, but it's not so bad for the jet lag because you're traveling down, right? Yeah. So instead of traveling across time zones, you might only travel across one time zone. So like Cape Town is 1 hour ahead. And places like Ghana, Accra in Ghana is on the same time zone.
So what, to a young bartender who's just either gained sort of interested in becoming a brand ambassador and stuff, it seemed like you had absolutely everything dialed in, like you had freaking a dream job. What made you
Yeah.
what made you sort of be done with it?
So, you're right, those jobs are seen as dream jobs. And that's only because you really see them from the outside. They are incredibly difficult. But most people only see the global ambassador, at least, roll into their bar once every 6 months, got the corporate credit card, buying drinks, having fun. What they don't see is like the getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning after 2 hours of sleep because you only got in from the last flight at 1. Thinking back to the airport, you're constantly jet lagged to some degree. Your sleep is just all over the place because you're always sleeping in different places.
Yeah.
And you have no routine. Your nutrition is awful because you're only eating in restaurants or room service. Never eat on airplanes is a piece of advice that I share with Anthony Bourdain. Exercise goes out the window because you're quite often so tired that you just don't have the energy to go out and do any exercise. And then there's the loneliness. These roles, whilst you are constantly being social, what you're missing is the really close friends that you need to be healthy.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly having to make these little micro friendships with people you might only see every few months or once and never again. So, after 6 years of being on the road and not managing myself properly, there was no one there keeping me in check or giving me advice on my health or mentoring me on how to look after myself on the road, and just living up to the boozy, well-traveled, I never said no to a trip. I'd be away from home 250 plus days of the year, over 100 flights. And eventually it all caught up to me. And in a hotel room in Athens on the 8th of November, 2016, I tried to commit suicide. And that was what kind of brought it all crashing down. Thankfully, because if I hadn't have stopped, I probably definitely would have killed myself. But walking away from that hotel room and kind of coming out of that experience and starting to speak publicly about my problems and my struggles, what I got was, what I was looking for was lots of messages of friendship and love and support from people. And all of those things are really important. And I wanted those to make me feel better, to help me out of this dip. But what really changed my life was all the messages I got from people telling me their stories. Telling me their experiences with mental health problems, their experiences with negative sides of the industry. And these were friends, colleagues, peers, complete strangers, just hundreds and hundreds of private messages. And it was these messages that changed my life, because I read everyone, and it's like, if there are so many people struggling in private, and suffering in silence, why is no one doing anything about this? And what kind of man would I be if I know that so many people are struggling and there's such a problem in the industry?
Do you think that?
What kind of man would I be if I don't do anything about it?
Do you think that mental health is still? Do you think mental health is still a bit of a stigma?
Oh, absolutely.
To talk about,
absolutely.
Like, I feel like you see, there's a lot more tail seminars and this sort of thing, but I still feel like we're at a point where there's a lot of talking about it and there's solutions out there, but the real connection with the people who have the issues is still not open. Like I've lost friends to the same sort of thing, and you sort of know that they're struggling, but you sort of still, to a degree, don't call them out on it. And it's very raw and open to go, hey, you got a drinking problem, you got to stop. You got to stop doing coke on a fucking Saturday night to get you through to Sunday.
It's hard, man. It's really hard, and you're right. We have made huge strides and huge progress, and that needs, the conversation needs to keep happening. But we still have a very, very long way to go. And you're absolutely right about calling out people. And that for me is what the essence of friendship is. If you have a friend that you know is struggling with the problem, and yet you continue to either ignore it or entertain it, that's not friendship.
Yeah.
But, that's even, or sometimes bordering on abuse. The fact that in the last few years how many people we've lost in the industry, and we lose people to alcohol related disease, for example. And how do we mourn them, or how do we celebrate the fact that they've passed away? We go and have a massive party and just get drunk.
Yeah.
Just part of what caused their problems in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, the celebration of life is great, but there's also some level in with, like, when I started talking about my mental health issues, I had a number of senior bartenders actually message me privately and say, hey, like, you're supposed to be the strong, resilient type. You shouldn't be really talking about these issues. Like, you're going to make the youngsters like feel bad. Like, you're going to make the youngsters like not see you as a pillar. You're showing weakness. And I'm like, yeah, but this is something that's very, very real. Like, and if I feel this way and people sort of let that social media bubble of the veneer of what like being someone in the industry is sometimes super fake.
Oh, absolutely. It's that the power of vulnerability is something that is only harnessed by the very few, and you tend to find the people that put them out who are able to show themselves being vulnerable in public are some of the ones that have the most influence and the power to change the world for good. If you as a well recognized character in the Victoria bar scene or the global bar scene, people around the world know who you are and respect you. If you can open up about your struggles, that then breaks down the barriers further down the line, and also makes people, think about how they're doing things, try and do things a little bit better. And I think it can have a hugely beneficial impact.
For people who don't know what Healthy Hospo is, what's the initiative behind Healthy Hospo?
So our mission is to build a healthier, happier hospitality industry.
And we in 2016?
No, the company was founded at the end of 2017 after I went through my recovery and began planning and working on it. And then we had our official launch at the beginning of 2018. Essentially, we are a health and wellness training provider. The whole ethos for us is there's a lot of organizations out there that work on the support side of things. So if you have a problem, if you fall, you got a problem with your mental health, there's someone there who will catch you, put you back together and pick you up, or pick you up and then put you back together. Whereas Healthy Hospo is kind of trying to prevent the illness happening in the first place. So we educate about good health based on a number of pillars. It includes sleep, food, exercise, social connection, mental health. We're starting to do stuff with financial health as well. And then also around the business side of health and wellness, and showing owners and operators that one of the most profitable things you can do for your business is invest in the health of your staff, which has been proven to be very popular.
Do you think there's still a certain level of toxicity in the workplace when it comes to, and I'm guilty of it, the badge of honor of working as long as shifts as you can, or how many people you did by yourself and that sort of thing? There's this sort of toxicity that it spreads because those bartenders who have that mentality, and I've tried to change my ways over the last couple of years, then become owners, and then they have that toxicity for their staff.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And people like Gordon Ramsay, I guess, are the pinnacle of that. Yeah, absolutely. It does seem like this perverse badge of honor, and I used to wear it as well. I used to do 90+ hours a week, week after week after week. But if you realize that after you get to 45 hours, your productivity starts to decline quite rapidly, actually. And if you come at it with intelligence and logic, you're right. After 45 hours, my working productivity and performance drops off a cliff. So not only does it not really work for me, working beyond 45 hours, it's actually really bad for the business as well. Yeah, as well as my health. So, but then you've got the problem of that hospitality is one of the poorest paid, if not the poorest paid industry in the world on average. So people are kind of forced into doing so many hours just to make the money to get by. I'm sure that if you ask a lot of people, they would rather work less hours and have more free time. But that requires a whole change in the industry and a move away from cheap food and drink, very, built on the back of weak, vulnerable, poorly paid staff and operators earning tiny margins.
Do you think there's a certain level of awareness? For me, my change has come in the last couple of years purely because I've become aware of what makes me happy. I like to work. I'm a workhorse. I'm happy to put in some long hours, and I like that. I tried the regular 45, 50-hour weeks, and it actually put me into a bit of depression. But I think that I've tried to now been aware that my work-life balance is not someone else's, and that I can't impose. And now I sort of live by rules. Like I never expect anyone to work as much as I do, because at the end of the day, it's what makes. I like hustle. I like to work my ass off.
There's nothing wrong with working hard. But there is the old mantra about work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
And I like to add a third one onto that. That's work hard, play hard, recover hard. Because if you're just working hard and playing hard and not doing the recovery, eventually the candle will burn out. But if you're making sure that your recovery is super on point, so you're getting great sleep, eating really well, you're doing some exercise, you're seeing, your social connections are really strong. That's recharging your batteries to allow you to continue to work hard and play hard. If you stop recharging yourself, eventually you're going to run out. And then.
So talking about exercise, you tried something very intense last year, starting at Tails, which I have no idea. Like you live in England, yet you decide to start running like long distances every day in some of the most oppressive heat and humidity in the world.
I tell you what, I may be I'm ginger, so I'm allergic to the sun, but I actually don't mind running in the heat. I'd much rather run in the heat than the cold.
So for everybody who's listening, like what was your goal? What was your goal at starting at Tails last year?
So I attempted to run 42 marathons in 42 consecutive days at 42 years old.
And so marathon 20 kilometers a day?
No, 42 kilometers.
42 kilometers. Jesus Christ.
26.2 miles or 42.1 kilometers.
And you banged it out pretty solidly at Tails.
Yeah. I did 2 at Tails. So myself, Jack McGarry, Josh Durr, and my friend Morton from London were the first people to ever run a marathon at Tails. And we did a pretty good time. We ran the first one at 4 hours and 9 minutes around the French Quarter, which I was really impressed with, because it's like the French Quarter is not a great place to run at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like we started at 7 a.m. and you know how much it stinks.
Yep.
They're cleaning the streets, and then the humidity rises, but it was the rain.
You could have got uric acid poisoning just from running around the French Quarter.
I think that's why we were so fast, is running away from the smell. But it was really important. So it was the Ben Carlotto Marathon.
Yep.
Because it was just after Ben had died, and we wanted to do something to remember Ben, that wasn't going out and drinking. It was something that was productive, was trying to improve people's health.
How many did you get in?
I managed 22 and a half.
Oh, wow. Before you got spurs, yeah?
I got a stress fracture on the left leg. So what I think because the first 4 marathons, So I did 2 in New Orleans. And then on the Sunday after I ran, I flew to New York and ran 2 around Central Park. But all 4 of them were in the rain. So we had a torrential thunderstorm both days in New Orleans. And then I flew to New York and I was like, at least the running and the rain is over. And then to wake up in the morning to severe weather warnings for extreme flooding in Central Park. And then go, hey, I've got to go and run a marathon in this. So yeah, I ran 2 marathons in crazy thunderstorms in New York, which was entertaining. But I think during that time, I managed to injure my left foot. Because I was having real problems with my toe and the base of my foot. And eventually that kind of worked its way up my leg and then resulted in a stress fracture. So I was forced to kind of run a little bit strange. I had to turn my left foot inwards. Pull my toes just to deal with the pain.
So did you end up ever finishing the 42?
No, we did something really amazing though. So after I went to hospital and had the moon boot put on and was on crutches wandering around. There were a number of bars around the world. So places like La Factoria in Puerto Rico, Copitas in St. Petersburg and the Savoy Hotel. We had maybe 20-something bars that all collectively ran a marathon. So they basically finished them off for me.
Nice.
Which was just the most incredible thing to see all of these bartenders around the world coming together to run, to finish these marathons so we could raise more money for better mental health in the industry. So for me, that result was even better than me even finishing them. The fact that we could inspire so many people around the world to lace up their shoes and go running.
Have you been helping a lot during the COVID lockdowns? Has Healthy Hospo been busy?
Yeah, crazy busy.
So I feel like the financial one has been interesting because I helped create a couple of seminars here, and we did a number of seminars based around like financial planning, talking about hospitality industry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And hardly anyone showed up for them virtually.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
And it's kind of crazy how, again, I'm part of a couple of non-profit organizations as well that give grants every week to hospitality people. So I see the stories every Thursday. I get a 18 to 25 Excel sheet with these grants and all anonymous and go through and hear people's stories and stuff. But then on the flip side, I'm curating seminars that are forced so people don't get into trouble again and no one shows up for them.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I wish I could sit every young bartender, everyone that comes into the industry, I wish that I could sit every single one of them down and just get them to open an index investment account and say, right, what you're going to do is going to put whatever amount, like 10% of your tips every week, every month, is going to go into this account. Put all your tips in that account, But just start at a young age, embrace the power of compound interest, make your money make more money. That's how you find financial freedom. This is not about becoming the next Jeff Bezos, becoming a millionaire. It's just about having a safety net and having some financial freedom, which for so many people has just been highlighted during the COVID dilemma, because no one has a rainy day fund anymore. And putting your money into a bank's savings account is a waste of time because banks give such a tiny amount of interest. It's pointless.
I think I look back now, and I'm sure you do too. Like when I was 20, 21, starting out in the industry, you just thought your body would keep up with you for the rest of your life. Like, and you do get to a point, like I'm going on 40, you're 42 last year. And like, there's a certain point you can stay as healthy as you can. But at the end of the day, like there's certain things in the service industry, being behind the bar for 10-hour shifts and stuff like that does a hell of a job on your knees and your ankles. Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden you're out for a week because you put your back out. Yeah. And you've got no safety net to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in Europe, we're lucky because we do have social healthcare. We do have national health services, and and our governments do look after us if we get sick. I mean, in the US, everyone is just screwed.
Yeah, we have the same thing here in Canada. So
yeah, I mean, for us over here in Europe, we just look at it and go like, this makes no sense at all. It's cheaper for everyone if your healthcare is paid by your taxes, not private companies charging your insurance.
Yep.
It's cheaper for everybody, and it's better for everybody.
Except for the companies.
Why don't you just switch to this? Huh?
Except for the companies that give you insurance.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly the point.
That's what it's not good for.
But it's just a strange one. But no, go back to your original question. Yeah, we've been super busy through the lockdown. Our business has changed, so we're obviously not doing anything with outlets.
Yeah.
Any of those kind of in-person trainings. Instead of all of the stuff we've been doing has been working with brands and putting out material, so webinars, videos, written content, social media stuff with a number of brands, and really engaging in the conversation. So the first part was kind of right at the start of lockdown in Europe, was talking about the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was in this weird phase because they're like, oh my God, I can't go to work and drink, I mean, not what to do. This is a bit of a party, yay! And then as they came down from that, everyone was starting to get a bit stressed and a bit worried. And it was like, right, this is an opportunity for everyone to get away from all of the bad stuff of our industry. You know, there's lots of great stuff, but there's also some bad stuff. You know, this is an opportunity for you to really get great sleep. You
Mm-hmm.
nail your sleep, get into a routine and a habit. You cook at home. The single best thing you can do for your health or your personal nutrition is just to cook food at home from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do some exercise. You can, how you connect with people has obviously changed. But how do you make sure that you keep strong connections during that? And rather than going, yeah, everything's fucked. The industry's on the downer. There's this mad disease. It's like, this is an opportunity. There is opportunity within the sadness and the bad times. So let's try and focus a little bit of positivity on that opportunity, and it will help you. Not only will it help you get through this, it will boost your immune system. It will make you healthier and stronger, so you are less likely to catch coronavirus. And as an early adopter of COVID-19, I can't recommend it to anyone.
So you've got the Healthy Hospo, been busy during COVID. What was the driver, the pivot behind creating your own Calvados brand? Because it's not like you have come out with another gin or another vodka or something that you've literally picked a niche of a niche. You've picked brandy, which is already a niche, and then you're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to do a Calvados, which is got enough rules and conditions to create a product like this.
I mean, it makes tequila look like a free market.
It really does. It really does make tequila look like a free market. So what was the driver behind doing a Calvados?
So when I was at Diageo, became really good friends with Stephanie Jordan, who was the global ambassador for Tanqueray when I was with Bullet. And we both left Diageo around the same time. I went off to do Healthy Hospo. She went off to set up her own consultancy called Drinking Out Loud. We kept chatting, and we were like, one day we'd both like to do a brand, because we'd spent 6.5, 7 years at Diageo working on brands for other people. So we kind of learned a few things that really work and a few things that don't really work. We're like, well, maybe we could give this a go. But what was really important to us was that the brand was really personified who we are as people and our beliefs and our passions. And so the thing that we decided on was that it had, what we really wanted to create was the world's most sustainable spirits brand. And we changed the wording we used to planet positive, because we want to go beyond traditional sustainability. So that was the goal. It's like, right, so if we're going to do something, we don't want to do something just because it's cool, or we want to make some money, or just for the sake. If we're going to do something, it's got to have real purpose. And so that purpose was to create the world's most planet positive spirits brand. and not do a gin because the world has enough gin right now. But because we start with a clean sheet of paper, we had an advantage because most brands already exist. So they have to retrofit sustainability into their current operations. Whereas because we had no operations and we had no kind of ambitions on a particular category, we could do whatever we wanted. So we sat down and we said, right, so let's go right back to the beginning. And at every stage of the process, we're going to ask the question, what is the most sustainable decision we can make at this decision point? So the very first decision is right, what are we going to make? And what is the raw, if you go back even further than that, what is the raw material that alcohol is made from? So let's start with the question, what's, from an environmental point of view, what is the best raw material to make alcohol from? Let's forget about price and taste and all that kind of stuff. So we looked at, we got a bunch of raw materials, so like grains, cereals, sugarcane, agave, and fruits. We thought were 4 main categories. And then we measured them against 4 metrics. So biodiversity, carbon dioxide, water use, and pesticide and fertilizer use. We didn't just want to focus on carbon because sustainability is a whole number of factors. And then so we assessed them all across those factors. And we found out that apples came out on top. And particularly the apples from Normandy and the way that they're farmed and grown in rural France. And that is what led us to Normandy into the wonderful, crazy world of calvados. So it wasn't an ambition to create a calvados or an apple brandy. That was the result of the questioning around sustainability.
So you go to Calvados. How did you partner up with the producers that you've partnered up with? Because again, like Calvados, like cognac, brandy, especially really anything with an AOC in France, has a very stuffy, like a very stuffy sort of perception in our industry. Like you get that bottle of Calvados and that Calvados has a label that hasn't changed since 1965 and it's in the back. Like how do you basically modernize something that has such stoic history, complete, not disregard, but complete sort of pushback on updating and modernizing?
We were extremely lucky. So we went and we met with a few Calvados partners, and we met someone at the only person we've ever seen with a Calvados stand at BCB in Berlin. So we met him one year and kind of just exchanged business cards and had a little chat. And then we went and organized trips, meetings with other producers. And Stephanie was like, well, you know, I'll drop Pierre a line and see if he's around. And it turns out that the distillery, so the distillery Cockerel, is about 20 minutes from my auntie's house, who also lives in Normandy. So this is just perfect. You know, stay with my auntie and then go to the distillery. And Pierre wasn't there, but his father met us, and his father is very traditional Calvados producer. You know, just very old-fashioned. Business planning is extremely. They only care about their business. They're not really concerned about the wider category. But Pierre is the complete opposite. So Pierre is, I think he's 32 now. So he's probably the youngest Calvados producer. He was educated in the US. He stepped out of a role in mergers and acquisitions at one of the world's big banks. So he's not come from the traditional Calvados world. Yeah. He's come back to take over his father's business, but with a mindset of New York cocktail bars and New York drinking and the banking world.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think people have this sort of perception, like I've been to cognac a number of years, and people have this perception that cognac is like streets are paved with gold, everybody's drinking, like everybody's driving Rolls Royces. It's like average age in cognac is like 55 years old. Yeah. The town shuts down at 9 p.m. apart from a few bars, maybe if they didn't shut down early. And it is a rural area. Like it is,
absolutely it is.
It's farmers. Like they grow the grapes, but it's the cognac houses that like do all the production of the cognac.
Yeah, a few people make all the money. Imagine like, Normandy is like cognac, but without the money. Like no one has any money in Calvados. Yeah, and that's part of it. Also, part of its charm. Like we love the apple farmers.
Yeah.
And we love the fact that it's a communal product. You know, if you make a Scotch whiskey, for example, you are probably buying your grain pre-malted from a large company that produces. You will never know who the farmers are, and it doesn't really matter because they own thousands of acres and it's all mechanized. In Normandy, the distillery buys the apples from 300 or so different farmers. And so, like during harvest time, when you go down, it's just hilarious. You'll have like a massive truck pull up the apple bay, and it will tip up, and you've never seen so many apples in your life. Like you think they're never going to stop coming off the back of the truck. And then the next person that turns up is like Jean-Claude in his 2CV with his little dog on the seat and his beret, you know, totally French. And he's got like a couple of boxes of apples on the back seat. And he just drives up and chucks those in as well, you know. And it feels like a real community thing. You know, all the apples come from within 20 kilometers of the distillery. Everyone gets paid a fair price. There's no market price. You know, it doesn't fluctuate like grain prices or grape prices do. It's fixed at the start of the year. Everyone knows how much money they're going to earn.
Yeah,
based on how much crop they produce. Which is, I think, again, is something that's not talked about in the industry, is the way that farmers can be held to, you know, the financial health of farmers can struggle depending on fluctuating raw material prices.
Well, I think people talk more so about, like you said, tequila, about there being free market, but like tequila is the notorious one. Every couple of years you hear about tequila agave shortages and that sort of thing. So, and the cost fluctuates depending on how big the crop is.
Yeah, and we don't have that in Normandy, and there's more than enough apples to go around because the category's been in decline for so long. But thankfully, meeting Pierre, who is this young, forward-thinking Calvados owner who understands modern branding, you know, he is literally the only Calvados distiller who's doing anything interesting in the category.
Well, let's have a look at the packet. Let's show the packaging for Avalon, because like as we were talking about, like the packaging that most of them have is like 1965 style, like old school labels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yours is brand spanking new.
It is. It's 70% of all Calvados comes in the same bottle. So for us, there was three things that were really important. Obviously, the sustainability of the liquid, the packaging, the product. It had to be super bartender friendly because I come from a bartending background. So for me, that was equally as important. And then finally, it had to look like nothing else that had ever come out of Normandy. So the bottle is not only the lightest bottle we could get in France, which is important from a sustainability and a material use point of view. And it's great for bartenders because, you know, bottles have been getting heavier and heavier and heavier over time. And the heavier bottles are going to cause more problems with your joints and RSI, and you're pulling them out of the speed well all night long. So it's really important to have a lightweight bottle, and then also to have a tall neck with a nice shoulder, so it kind of fits in the hand really well, sits in the speed well, it's easy to get out. So that was important. And then from a sustainability point of view, we've got the label is made from apples.
Oh wow!
So after we press the apples at the distillery, all of the apple pulp is collected. Some of it is given back to the local farmers who either feed it to their cows or use it as fertilizer. Some of it is put into a methane digester at the distillery, and that methane is used to fire the stills. And then a little bit of it is used to make the paper for our labels. So it's a special paper called Apple Touch. It's made exclusively for Avalon. So we're the only brand in the world that we know of with apple paper labels.
And bees are important too. I notice bees are pretty prominent on your thing. And obviously, I think with the macro spirit production in this day and age, people don't think of bees as an important touch, but like especially for apple production, like without bees, you don't get apples.
Well, if you like cocktails, you have to love bees, because without bees, there's no cocktails.
Yeah.
There's no citrus, and probably even more importantly to bartenders, there's no coffee.
Mm-hmm.
There's no apples. There's no. If we didn't have bees, not only would there be no flowers, the food that we would eat would all have to be wind pollinated food or mushrooms. So you would literally just have mushrooms on toast all the time, all day, every day. Bees are so fundamentally important, and it's not just the honeybee. The honeybee gets all of the attention because it's a commercial product. It hives in vast numbers and thousands, and you can ship them all across the country. But it's the wild bees that the ones we really need to look after, because honeybees will always be okay because they are a commercial product. They will always, and they're worth so much money, and someone will always look after them. But there's the wild bees, like the bumblebees, the leafcutter bees, the miner bees, the mason bees, the scissor bees, the cuckoo bees. And there's maybe 20,000 known species of bee, of which the western honeybee is just one. So there's all these other kind of weird and wonderful bees that are so vital that we're really inspired to kind of work to protect. So we donate, from every bottle sold, we donate to bee charities around the world.
Oh, wow.
And then also all of our POS. So everything that we produce from a POS point of view. So to give you an example, we do, I can find some. We've got coasters, these like little coasters. So they're made from seed paper.
Wow.
So the idea is that when the bar or whoever's drinking is finished with them, you can take them and go and put them in some soil, and wildflowers will grow, which helps the bees. And then our only other kind of piece of point of sale is a little, I don't have any with me unfortunately, but we call them bee bombs, or flower or weapons of mass pollination. So it's like it looks like a little grenade. It's like a little paper grenade.
Yeah.
But inside is organic peat-free soil and wildflower seeds. So basically, you fill it with water, give it a shake, and then throw it. And when it hits the ground, flowers sprout out of it, and it just looks beautiful and really helps bees.
Wow. So I know that you're doing a bit of a funding drive right now for the Calvados. What's the plan for the next 6 months? Obviously, it's difficult to be doing traveling and freaking. It's not like you can touch tables and kiss babies at on-premise accounts when you can't go into on-premise accounts, and you've launched a very niche product. So what's the plan for the next 6 months for Healthy Hospo as well as the Avalon?
So with Avalon, it's to get through this and have a successful crowdfund. So we're currently trying to raise money through a crowdfund, which was a way we really wanted to do it. We've turned down an offer from a big global drinks brand.
Oh, wow.
Because we wanted to learn that for us, Avalon, so we believe in planet, people, and profit. The triple bottom line. So for us to be able to bring in people from the industry and try and create a brand for the industry. I've grown up in hospitality, so if I can kind of have a brand that's partly owned by people within the industry, that to me is far more exciting than having an already extremely wealthy company own a portion of it because they want to make more money.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier around financial health. We deliberately set the share price really low, so it's £11.90 for a single share. So if you're a bartender, for the price of a cocktail in London or maybe in Vancouver, you can buy a piece of Avalon and you can own a piece of a brand that you push across the bar every day. So not only are you kind of serving drinks and making your business money, you're also investing in your own personal wealth. And we're trying to do some education with young bartenders around the power of investing. And using investing in a spirits brand as a way to do that. And for me, that's really important to be able to have lots and lots and lots of small investors get involved, and maybe it's the first time they've set foot on the investment ladder and got involved in it. And that to me is far more exciting than having just one big rich person swoop in and take.
How did the big company take it when you said no?
I think some egos were a little knocked, but it was very polite and friendly.
Well, it is interesting because I think that I talk about entrepreneurs in the drinks industry, which is sometimes hard because it's usually people from outside the industry who start these brands up in the hopes that in a year, 15 months, 18 months, that someone's going to come along and pay them a huge chunk of coin to flip it. Yeah. And
everyone wants to be the next George Clooney, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I think that buyout was probably the catalyst for so many more people thinking that you can make a shit ton of money in the drinks industry.
Oh, if another celebrity launches a drinks brand, I'm going to go mad.
Wait, like you got Post Malone drinking rosé wine. I think it's Provence rosé wine as well.
Oh god, Cameron Diaz and her clean wine can go fuck off as well. The only one that I have any time for out of these celebrity brands is Terramana Tequila.
Yep.
And The Rock, because he is a genuine bona fide tequila nut.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't follow him on Instagram, he only posts about 3 things on Instagram. It's like going to the gym, his daughter, and tequila.
Yeah.
It's the only 3 things, and the only 3 things he's ever posted about. You know, he loves tequila. So for me, that one feels really genuine.
Yeah.
You know, I like, who knew Matthew McConaughey was such a big bourbon fan? Nobody.
So, what's the plan for Healthy Hospo in the next 6 months?
So it's a big 6 months for us. So Healthy Hospo, you know, we've been doing a job like doing physical in-person trainings and talks around the world, and really starting to try and change the conversation around health and wellness for the past couple of years, and that's been great. You know, we've had some successes. But one thing that's always frustrated me is the small number of people that we've been able to touch within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an industry that at its widest scope employed before COVID around 10% of the global workforce. You know, and that's hundreds of millions of people. Yet we've only been able to train a few thousand.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan was always to create a digital platform where we could take our training and put it online, and really allow people to access it wherever they are in the world. And then obviously COVID has made that even more important.
Yep.
So we are currently in the final stages of building an app. So we're taking all of our training content, turning it into digital lessons, which will be available to people anywhere in the world through our app, for the princely sum of less than the price of a cup of coffee a month.
Okay.
Which is exciting to be able to have all of that stuff online for people to access 24/7, wherever they are in the world, whatever they're doing. They don't have to commit like an hour and a half of their day to training.
Mm-hmm.
They can do like, if they've got 10 minutes on the bus on the way home, or they've got 10 minutes because it's a quiet time at work, they can bash through a couple of chapters of a lesson. And really just trying to kind of make our training accessible to everybody at a really, really good price.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping to launch that in October during London Cocktail Week, which has now become London Cocktail Month. It's a month-long activation now. So that's the plan, to be able to launch that digital learning platform, and it will be the first of its kind for the industry, and it's focused on health and wellness, and launch that out to try, you know, to take Healthy Hospo to the next stage of helping people in our dream for a healthier, happier industry. Essentially, I'm trying to put myself out of business.
Well, it's not a bad thing either.
No, exactly. I would be very happy to retire Healthy Hospo and just focus on Avalon.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, man. It's been an amazing conversation. It got a lot deeper than I was expecting. So I always like coming into conversations and being shocked and surprised, is why I don't usually research my interviewees. I usually just, I like to be organic and authentic. And I want to thank you for your time. Healthy Hospo, I'll link up everything for Healthy Hospo, the Avalon Kickstarter, the Avalon crowdfunding as well.
Yeah, so it's different to Kickstarter, because with Kickstarter you just buy a product. With us, you actually buy a piece of the company, which is what we really want. We really want bartenders to, and anyone around the world except from the US, can invest. And we really want all those bartenders to get involved. That whole conversation we had around finance, to really start thinking about it, and for a very small price, get involved in the world of investing. So,
but thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm honored to have been on your show, on your podcast.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a little bit weird with COVID, because I had a list of people that this year, I have a list of people of like who I want to talk to face to face. And that's obviously that list is getting smaller and smaller, because I have to do it via Zoom. So
yeah, well, there's advantages to it and the disadvantages, but hopefully we'll find a balance soon, and this will all calm down and we can get back to seeing each other in person.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I look forward to sharing a drink with you soon.
Please. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Shawn. Speak soon.
Cheers. Bye.
All right.